Well, we have been talking about what's happening in Turkey. There are some of the pictures that have been flowing in. Obviously, the protests in Taksim Square accelerating as protesters are concerned about the government cracking down on some of their rights, infringing upon their rights, as we just heard from Ben Holland, Bloomberg reporter, who joined us just moments ago from inside the park. Well, we have been talking, obviously, about what's happening on the ground. There's a lot that has been happening in the markets. The Turkish stock market down significantly over the past month, as is the currency. And Julie Hyman is here to explain in today's Global Outlook. Jules?
Well, let's talk about the growth in Turkey, first of all, because the country just came out and said its first quarter GDP was up 3%. That was better than estimates. And this has been a country that has seen rapid growth and steady growth, which is one of the reasons why investors are so alarmed about what's going on there. Does this jeopardize the strength that the economy has been seeing? So that has resulted in the decline in stocks that we've seen. The index there, the benchmark, the ISC 100, peaked on May 22nd. Since then, it has tumbled 19%, so almost entering a bear market. You see there the year-to-date charts of that peak and then coming down.
Can we attribute it all to these protests?
Yes, it seems like it is largely because of those protests. Yes.
You know, it's interesting. You compare this with, say, something like the Arab Spring and what was going on in Egypt, and people were very upset there, clearly because of food costs and inflation being so significant in those economies. Not the case here. I mean, you're looking at 3% growth, as you point out. What's unemployment like?
It doesn't seem to be. I don't know the unemployment figures offhand, but it doesn't seem that that is as much of an issue. You're talking about a more developed economy than we have seen in many of the Arab Spring countries. And, you know, you're also not talking about necessarily a brutal dictatorship, right? You're talking, it's a more subtle complaint about personal
rights. I don't know. You say dictatorship, you know, there's accusations of the regime being an authoritarian. Can I speak right now?
Yet he was elected.
Yes, he was elected. But let me just share with you, we had some news crossing with the governor of Istanbul coming out and saying that all rebellions targeting Turkey's future to be crushed. That's a quote. All rebellions targeting Turkey's future to be crushed. So that sounds
extreme.
A little.
It does sound more extreme, doesn't it? I also want to talk about the currency for just a second. The Turkish lira, which, as you mentioned, has been falling. And the country's central bank came out today and said, we're going to implement some tightening measures. And then it did see something of a rebound. So interesting here, you know, we have all these countries around the world that purposefully want to depress their currencies, Japan being chief amongst them. And here's a country that is getting concerned when you're seeing the lira fall, and they want to try and buttress it to some extent.
And try to shore up what's happening. We should point out, by the way, the unemployment, which we were just discussing, the most recent we can get is from December of last year. So granted, it's 5 to 6 months old, 9.5%.
So significant,
It's significant, certainly, but it's lower than Europe. But it is certainly a high number, and you can understand why people are upset.
Well, and you wonder what's, as you said, this is from last December, you wonder what's happened to that number since then, you know, because there's clearly a lot of unrest there.